Morning, Cat. Pa here. So I know the mistake I made at the beginning. I made a mistake right at the beginning by not expanding these things correctly, which makes me laugh. But there you go, one mistake, and as you know, you get it all wrong. So I did it again and got it all right. I'll show you how I did it. I thought there was a trick to this, something, but there's no trick to it. It's simply a matter of expanding expanding these, moving all the numbers over to here, leaving all the x's over there, simplifying for x. Maybe what trips you up, and maybe kind of tripped me up a little, is that it's kind of a weird and awkward number at the end. It's not a very easy number like 2 2/3, but actually that's the right number, so let's just go through it real quick. So the first thing I did is expand. So I take 5, you know how to do that, so I take 5x, it becomes 5x over 6, and when you expand this one, it's 5 times minus 4 times 6 times times 1, so it becomes minus 20 over 6. You do the same thing here, that becomes 2x over 7, and then that becomes 12 over 7. 12 over 7, sorry, that's my mistake right here. Still comes out right. Okay? And then that is equal to 8. Haven't changed anything here yet. So then the next thing that I need to do, hopefully you can still see this, the next thing that I need to do is, I don't know if you know how to do this or not, but it's a little math trick. You've got to come up with common denominator here, because 6 and 7 is very hard to add them. You can't. Yeah, I can't add something with a 6 at a bottom and a 7 at a bottom. But what I notice here is that you've got 6 and 7s at the bottoms of both, which is pretty good. That means that you know that 6 times 7 is 42. So probably what we need to do is multiply this one times 7 and this one times 6. So you end up multiplying, and it's like you end up with 35x over 42, and you do it this way, 12x over 42, because you're multiplying that way and that way, and you do the same thing over here, that way and that way. So you end up with, just going through the numbers, 35x over 42, and then 12x over 42. So that's actually the same value. You can see that 5, 6 is not quite 1, just to give you an example. Not quite 1, but 35 over 42 is not quite 1. So it's the same value, like it's the same unit value, but instead of being expressed as 5, 6, we now have it expressed as 35 over 42. So everything's actually the same. It's just that it's got a bigger denominator now. But because it's the same denominator across the board, because this becomes 140 over 42, and that one becomes 72 over 42, we can now actually simplify quite a bit. So actually this is really like the key thing that you need to do here. And I know they're big numbers and a bit awkward, but actually it's straightforward. 35x minus 12x over 42 is 23x. And if you were to add these two numbers up, minus 72 plus 140, you end up with, well, that's 926. So you would end up, this is actually, sorry, I simplified this too quickly. This is 42, this would be the same as 8, 60. Okay, so if you took these numbers, minus 72 plus 140, you end up with 68 over 42, which simplifies to 9 over 26 to 42. And then what I want to do is actually divide both numbers, both sides, by 42, because the 42, by simplifying everything to 42, is now service to purpose. We can't do anything with 42s at the bottom of everything. So I want to multiply both sides by 42. So when you do that, 42 times 23 over x is just that, and you end up with 23x, right? This one, you have to multiply that whole thing by 42, and you come up with a fantastically large number. But what you end up with is like 42 times 9 and 42 times 26 over 42. So you end up with, I'm just going to write it here, 42 times 9 plus 26. You see that? Because this will cross out this. So you end up with 42 times 9 for that, and then plus 26 because it's going to be like that. So that ends up to 404. So then all you have to do is move the 23 over, and you get 404 divided by 23. And if you simplify it again, it's like, I don't know, 17 and something over 23. But I noticed your answer is just 404 divided by 23. So see how that goes, and we'll take it from there.